Welcome back to The Breakfast in Plus TV Africa. Let's take you through the pages of our national dailies as we have Ezekiel Nya-Etok, who is on standby to join the conversation via Zoom. I start off with the Nation newspaper this morning. On the Nation newspaper, ahead 2023 presidential poll, Fayose Ortom rattle PDP. That's the bold caption. And underneath, Ekiti ex-government insists power must shift. Benue governors fault Atiku on Wike and poor attendance at Osun campaign council initiation. Why importers are abandoning Nigeria's port by operators. These are some of the headlines on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Move straight to the Daily Independent with these headlines. The big one there, crisis in the PDP as governors take back seat in party's activities. Crisis in PDP as governor take back seat in party's activities. 11 boycott inauguration of Osun campaign cancel. Okowa, Damagun, Bature urge common front to capture Osun. I'm still national chairman of PDP, says Eocha Ayu. More from the paper. Running mate why Tinubu rejected Lawan, Yaya Bello. Running mate why Tinubu rejected Lawan, Yaya Bello. Seems that the running mate debate is not just going on in the PDP but also at the APC. Senate to send delegation to visit Ekweremadu wife in London. Senate to send delegation to visit Ekweremadu wife in London. Despite COVID-19, NSAS insurers post over 800 billion naira gross premium. Quite interesting. Despite COVID-19, and NSAS insurers post over 800 billion naira gross premium. Insecurity, army to engage services of retired personnel. An interesting read right there in the Daily Independent. Insecurity, army to engage services of retired personnel. Some of the headlines on front page of the Daily Independent.
We'll move away from the Daily Independent newspaper. Let's look at this day newspaper. Ortom undecided about support for Atiku once Wike placated. And federal government blames terrorists for perennial nationwide power outage. Interesting. Nigeria's security problem requires political solution. Araboy says with citizens working alongside state agencies, 2023 elections will be peaceful. CBN sets January 2023 deadline for financial institutions to tighten nose on cyber crimes. And R. Kelly sentenced to 30 years in prison for sex trafficking and charges. Underneath, you have 6 meeting between PDP candidate, Rivers Governor. Real reason Wike lost out on vice president nomination. Fayose explained why Wike wouldn't support former vice president's ambition. The headlines this morning on this day newspaper.
All right, and finally, we look at the details coming on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the headlines rather. The big one there, running mate, Wike Okowa's camps clash. As Ortom, Fayose threaten Atiku's bid. Of course, both gentlemen, the governor of Benue State and the former governor of Ekiti State, giving media interviews and saying a lot. We'll look at that as we go on. Picking Okowa undemocratic, only God can tell me to support Atiku or Tom. Atiku should reach out to Wike, Rivers PDP. No going back on Okowa, says aid. And Fayose demands Southern presidency, says PDP constitution backs power rotation. Interesting ones. Let's quickly now bring in our guest, Ezekiel Nya-Etok, who's a public affairs analyst. He joins us live via Zoom this morning. Mr. Nya-Etok, Architect Nya-Etok, thank you so much for your time, and it's good to have you back. We start with what's happening in the People's Democratic Party, and aptly captured by the Punch newspaper this morning. Please give us your thoughts. I'm sure you may have seen 1 or 2 snippets of what Ortom had to say, and also read a bit of what Fayose is saying. Wike has been vacationing in Turkey and has not wasted time to share the pictures of himself and Okezue Ikpeazu having a good time there. Do you think that the PDP has cast itself into this position, and we're going to be seeing the other governors, moving ship, or their support at least for the APC or Peter Obi?
Me, I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear. We can hear you very clearly. Please go on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think that when we start to do this analysis of the PDP and APC, we look at it from two different perspectives. One is intellectual analysis, and the other is nationalistic interest. But let's start from the intellectual analysis and think in terms of what. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, for loud and clear, please go on. We can.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ezekiel Nya-Etok. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wow.
Yeah, Mr. Atiku, we can hear you. If you can hear us, please go on.
Yes, I can hear you very well. Thank you. You know, we need to, like I said, two perspectives. One is intellectual, the other one is nationalistic. Let's take the intellectual first. If you understand party politics, you know that there's a very wide gap between politics and governance. So, former Vice President Atiku, in thinking of who to have as a running mate, is concerned in terms of politics, winning election. He sees Mr. Wike as having a lot of capacity, potentials, capability, and all that. That's on one hand. Then he looks at governance, and he is concerned, after winning election, will I be able to have this man who is very, very opinionated, who is very, very on the front? Can he play the second fiddle, being a spare tire that will the administration run smoothly on? And he's really concerned about that. So he's torn between the two. And when you do what you call the lines of least resistance, you discover that he is probably saying, if I win election and I have a terrible administration and this is the last lap that I have, then I'm going to be a terrible, president. So he is taking the risk of saying, let me take the other way of somebody who is going to be able to sit down and work for me and be very content being quiet and on on the working side. So he pitched his tent with my Oga Okowa. I call him my Oga because he's somebody I've worked for severally, and I have a very good relationship with him. But on the other hand, the people who have worked for the PDP with the PDP, who see reward as the essence of politics, are vivid. They are angry. They are saying this man has been PDP personified. At the stage, we didn't know where the chairman of PDP was, but we knew Mr. Wike. So he's being unfair to treat him that way. The least he could do was to reward him with the vice presidential seat. And it also to do with our political system, where we see governance as a reward platform rather than a platform where you have to work for the people and ensure that the essence of democracy is animated, is actualized through the performance in office. This is the conflict that we have, and Nigerians need to know it's on all fronts. It's just that the PDP version is coming at a very high level. We are rewarding engineers who work very hard to fix the aircraft with the job of piloting. And that's why our aircraft are shutting down. The aircraft called Nigeria is shutting down, and we become the poverty capital of the world. I think the time has come when we have to, I will give Mr. Atiku the credit this time, but he also has to be the politician who reaches out. He should have spent so much of his time, his energy, his resources, all he has in placating, Mr. Wike, whom the whole nation has sentiment behind, because he really worked to stabilize PDP. He did. But let Nigerians, they should be able to come out and let Nigerians know why he went for Mr. Okowa rather than Mr. Atiku Wike.
All right. Ezekiel Nya-Etok, let's also look at this day newspaper. And this talks about the federal government blaming terrorists for the nationwide power outage. I mean, you want to talk about the consistent power outage in the country. The federal government is blaming terrorists for this. Having in mind, just as we proceed, Nigeria is very endowed with oil. You also talk about solar and hydro resources. We have the capacity to produce with the existing plant about 12,000 megawatts, 12,522 megawatts, but we're not even generating enough. I mean, we're around less than 4,000 megawatts in recent times. Do you think that this is actually true, that we're blaming terrorists, not also taking out the fact that, I mean, this terrorist exists, but is it really true that terrorists are responsible for the power outage that we have that has been consistent?
You see, the Bible says, resist the devil. The Bible says, cast the devil. The Bible says, bind the devil. The Bible knows that a thief comes not but to steal, to kill, to destroy. The Bible calls the devil the father of lies. He paints a picture of who the devil is, and he tells you what to do about it. This government is blaming the devil for their lies rather than to resist the devil, to cast the devil, to bind the devil, to use the powers he has to put the devil where it belongs, because the devil is only doing what he should do. How can you come here and be blaming terrorists for your woes? What are terrorists supposed to do? They are to terrorize you. How are they supposed to terrorize you? With every means they have. They should take your children. They should make sure you have no power. They should cripple your government. That is the work of terrorists, to terrorize you. And rather than you come out to put the terrorists where they belong, you are coming here to be blaming the terrorists for doing what they are supposed to do in the first instance. Are terrorists supposed to be working for you? No.
So are you saying that terrorists, Ezekiel Nya-Etok, I mean, let me come in there. Are you saying that the terrorists are responsible for our inability to generate about 12,000 megawatts?
I am saying that it is irresponsible to put the blame on terrorists, because terrorists are doing what they should do if that is what they are doing in the first instance. But if we are to go back and do the analysis and understanding, please tell me how terrorists have stopped us from having refineries. A place like Singapore does not produce oil. They have so many refineries. 8 years we've not been able to have our refineries. Please tell me what the terrorists have done about it. Please tell me what the terrorists have done about our inability to know our production quota, how much oil we produce on a daily basis. Please tell me how terrorists have made the president to be the minister of petroleum, and yet there's no accountability at a stage. You know, the NNPC MD had to say that we are losing over 200,000 barrels per day of oil to oil theft. Please tell me how terrorists are responsible for all this. We have an irresponsible government. That is why I am very upset with the obsession of the media with these current people. I was expecting that by today, the limelight will be on the new kids on the block. Who are these people that are coming out? Some days back, we spent sleepless nights and days doing strategic analysis in ADC with Dumebi Kachiku on the solution to Nigeria's problems. What is the SDP candidate talking? What is the ADC candidate talking? What is the Labour Party candidate talking? This should be the conversation that should shape the narrative, that should move all the new kids into their closets and their think tanks to give solution to Nigeria's problem, instead of spending the last 10 minutes talking about the vice presidential candidate of a party that we have no business talking about them at all. I think the media should start to set an agenda for Nigeria. All these people, they are spent.
Mr. Nya-Etok, I would rise to defense of the media. You know what they say: if you're big, you are big. Mr. Nya-Etok, if you're big, you are big. Guy. You know, I'm sure we would have the time and opportunity to talk about these guys. I mean, we cannot ignore what's happening. Sorry, sir. Just to make the point. Just to make the point. Mr. Nya-Etok, just to make one quick point. I mean, we cannot ignore what's happening. The papers can't ignore what's happening in the PDP. That's worth writing about. They can't ignore what's happening in the APC. That's a ruling party. That's what writing about.
Can they ignore what's happening in the country that will become the poverty capital of the world?
But
except of the realm where they are
Let's talk about what's happening in the country, sir. Let's talk about what's happening in the country. And we go back to the Punch newspaper with this particular headline. This is worrying for me, and I'm sure it's worrying for a lot of other people, including you. At that top left corner, you would see the picture of the Minister of Finance, and the headline, FAC, that's the Federation Allocation Accounts Committee, allocation declines by 30%. States' finances may worsen. Sometime last week or early this week, we heard that the FIRS had to come to the rescue of FAC because of the declining wars coming in from NNPC. So what it's saying is, I just give you a few sentences from there for context. Revenue allocation to federal, state, and local governments has declined from a peak of 970.57 billion naira in July 2021 to 680.783 billion naira in May 2022, representing a reduction of 30% over the period. So this is over 1 year, almost a 1 year period. Over to you, Mr. Nya-Etok. Almost 1 year, about 11 months, 10 months.
Thank you for that. I think that I would still go back to the fact of agenda setting. So many people want to be governors. How many of them are taking cognizance of what you've just read? The fact that the resources are depleting, they are declining, they are coming down. And when you see the amount of money they are spending on campaign to be governor, the question is, what are you bringing to the table, understanding that the resources are no longer there? That's why we need to have the intellectual discourse to move from, analysis of the situation into solution providing. That's just where I'm coming from. What is the solution that you are providing? Instead of our, analyzing the happenings in the state. A better analysis in my own is, how have you understood this? What is your salary and how are you going to deal with this? I think that is where the media can help us. Let me use that word, help us. Because the situation is getting worse by the day and we may not be able to pay salaries unless we have a new set of people that come with a new set of thinking and paradigm shift.
All right, let's also get back to this, the newspaper. It talks about a Senate delegation that leaves for London tomorrow you already know what's in the news, Ike Kurumada's, saga or situation, if you like to put, the organ trafficking. Now, the question here is this a national issue? Should we have, lawmakers leaving and a delegation, if it's like it's the sitting of Bakassi, to Cameroon?
Those guys, with all due respect, are jobless. Please just tell me what they are going to do. What are they going to do? Defense lawyer or moral support? We in a country, we do not have money to pay ASU to take our children back. I want them to give us a very honest and realistic cost of what they are going to spend and what they are going to do that they cannot do via Zoom. What is the delegation going to do? Just tell me what they are going to do and the amount of money they are going to spend. This is a country where our priorities are turned upside down. The Senate delegation should visit the universities and tell them what can be done for children to go back to school and not to take off to London. To go and do what? I just want to find out what they are going to do. Are they going to visit Ekweremadu to tell him we are with you, and they can't do that through text message, they can't do that via Zoom? Or are they going to help him recruit a lawyer, and that cannot be done, they must be physically there? Or are they going to give physical evidence before the court that they know this man, is that necessary? Those guys know that we don't have money again. We don't have money again. They should stop this mentality of wasting our funds in their own private interest. When our courts, the judges are still writing with long hand, when our schools have been shut, when our pensioners are dying without being paid, all the money that we are spending and wasting, we should stop it.
All right. Back to the punch. Very important, debate or discussion on the floor of the House of Representatives took place, which I'm sure Nigerians should keep an eye on. It's the resurfacing of the Water Resources Bill that was roundly rejected by most Nigerians the first time it was brought up. It's been presented again. It's quite a controversial bill. The headline from the Punch newspaper is "Lawmaker Kicks as Water Bill resurfaces at the House of Representatives." The chairman of the House Committee on Water Resources is Sada Soli. He says that the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, and the ministers, commissioners of justice from the 36 states of the Federation have been consulted, and the opinions received, and that will be attached to the new bill, which he thinks will be more acceptable to Nigerians. But a member of the House of Representatives from Benue State, Mark Bila, raised the alarm, saying the bill should not have been read, saying it was controversial and he thought it was discarded. Also, the House of Representatives Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, in his response, said he also asked the chairman of the Water Resources Committee the same thing, that why is the bill being brought back again? And he was told that issues of controversy had been addressed by all the states of the Federation. So is this good to go if these issues have been addressed as far as you're concerned, Ezekiel Nya-Etok? Is it a no-no from you?
The issues addressed was Nigerians say, throw that thing out. We don't want it. We have more concerns. We have more important things. Nigerians rejected it. And Nigerians, you see, there's a new Nigeria that these people need to wake up to. That new Nigeria is the awareness of the younger people, and they are willing to take you on. Let these people just spend the remaining days they have in the National Assembly peacefully and leave all these controversial issues, because we Nigerians, I can say this with every sense of responsibility, have decided on this national rescue mission and to watch over everything. Nobody is going to put anything in any bill and smuggle it through the back door and hope it will fly. It's not going to fly. There are setups that we have already that are putting an eye on everything. Let them just concentrate on giving us free, fair, credible elections. That's all the National Assembly should do for us now. We don't want any new bills, all this water or no water, throw it out. Just concentrate on giving us anything and everything that will give us free, fair, credible elections in 2023. We are looking at all the candidates on the table. We are not playing party again. The hashtag person, not party, has taken a national life. And all we want is allow us to take our destiny in our hands, allow our young people to take their destiny in our hands, because I'm 58. So I really don't want to say allow us, because people like us should be thinking of how we can bequeath a better country to our children. I'm already a grandfather. What will I tell my grandchild when he's on my laps? What will I talk to them about? So let them leave all this Water Resources Bill distracting us at a time like this. I think it's a deliberate distraction to get us off the eyes on the ball on 2023, and then they can now do one or two things. It's a distraction, and Nigerians say no to it. Give us free, fair, credible elections. That's all we want from you, and we'll be grateful to you.
All right. Still staying with this day newspaper, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, says that Nigeria's security issues requires a political solution. How do we differentiate politics from governance? Because, governance or government, because it's government's responsibility, which is very expressly written in the Constitution about ensuring that lives are protected. So is there a difference between political solution and, government's responsibility?
The man has used a small voice to say a mighty thing. That's what I'll tell you. He's just putting it nicely, political solution. What he says is political will. The army to take instruction. And until there is that animation, the body language of the chief executive of go for it, not just saying it. But he tells the guys, I will see the red of my eyes if you don't flush this people out. What he's talking about is political will, by my interpretation. I think it's just being, laconic. Not just laconic, it's being diplomatic with the choice of words, So what he needs is Chief Executive, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, please tell me, give me this marching order to flush these people out. The Nigerian army can do it. And I say this with every sense of responsibility. But you see, the army is trained to take instruction. And all the man is saying, please give me that marching order and watch me flush out these idiots.
All right, let's go back to the Punch newspaper, and I have an ASU moment for today, Mr. Ezekiel Nya-Etok, if you would. Minister designate plans to end ASU strike, Senate confirms nominees. Of course, you're well aware that President Buhari has had to appoint new ministers following the resignation of the last set who wanted to be president of Nigeria. And the new minister designate is saying, I'm coming on board to end ASU strike. The issues are well documented. A series of gaffes, if you want to call it that, on the part of the federal government, especially coming from the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Can this new minister designate be the savior, be the Messiah, be the Jesus Christ for the federal government as far as the strike is concerned?
Yeah, it's like giving a carpenter a blunt saw, very, very blunt saw to cut an Iroko tree. Now he has the policy, he has the will, he has the drive, he has the enthusiasm, he has everything. But there are two blunt tools he has to contend with. One blunt tool is the insincerity in the part of the federal government to bring out funding and be straight. The second blunt tool is the Minister of Labor, who is still there, who has a certain mindset that he cannot override easily. The minister means well, is well-intentioned, but he's going to have to meet two conditions. Number one is, can we reach an agreement with the man who was there before, not want his ego to come up and look like a guy has just come up and taken the shine off me and become the clog in the wheel of progress? Will he be nationalistic enough to take a backseat and say, what I could not do, somebody else has come and been able to do it? That is number one. Number two, is the federal government willing to free themselves from frivolous spendings like the Senate going to London to go and commiserate, I don't know what I say, with Mr. Peremadu, and release as much funds as practical to these people. The ASU, they are not exactly, irresponsible and unpatriotic. If there are three, they want to know that there's three. Not there's five and you show them three and ask them to cheer three instead of five. Once we are honest with ASU, I think we'll get a solution.
All right, on the Daily Independent newspaper, the caption talks about insecurity and the fact that the army is ready to engage services of retired personnel in tackling, the security challenges that we have. Do you think that this is very brilliant? I mean, if they're retired, shouldn't they be allowed, to rest? Is it that we don't have, persons who are very experienced or knowledgeable in the private and even in the military to tackle the security issues that we have? Is it really lack of, experience or expertise that's the issue here?
There are two types of retirement. There's age retirement. Somebody has worked and is tired, and there's political retirement. Unfortunately, there's a lot of political retirement in the army. I have some of my very close friends, like I'll just give a name without Coco. If you see Coco, he looks like University of Uyo student, but he's retired. He's a general. He looks like University of Uyo. He's as fit as a fiddle, and he is just a representation of a lot of our young officers, young in parentheses. It's like me, I'm 58, in a year's time or thereabout, I'll be 60. And you tell me, get out, you are too old. Guy, put me on the track and see what I can do. There's a lot of retired people who are still as fit as a fiddle. So such people have a wealth of experience. They're not going to be trained anew. They have a lot of capacity within them. And a lot of them were retired because they took decisions that were nationalistic, but not in the interest of the Ogas as at that time. So if these people are brought back, it's not just going to be like, butter on bread. It's going to be a profiling. And those of them that are still fit, and certain tests will be done. And I can tell you that you find them in hundreds of thousands. Such people, I think it's a brilliant idea to put them either on standby or to bring them back as the need may arise.
All right. I want to say a very big thanks to you, Architect Ezekiel Nya-Etok, for your candid, honest, and very incisive analysis on the paper review this morning. And take it easy on the press. We're doing our best. All right, but
yeah, my people, you guys, you rock.
Thank you very much for your time.
Like Oliver Twist.
Yes,
thanks to the
thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to the best for Nigeria.
Well, that's it. That's the size of our conversation, and Off the Press will return tomorrow with more insightful analysis. In the meantime, we'll step on the brakes. When we return, we'll head straight to our first major conversation. Stay with us.